everyone! I'm Dixie Doo, the new member of the Cryptidmaster experience. And today, I'm introducing Cryptidmaster! Thank you, Dixie. Hello again. Welcome to my channel. It's the Cryptidmaster Show. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Cryptidmasterkd, and the terrifying creature hiding in the woods outside your window. And in today's episode, I also have a special guest on the show. We all know her. We all love her. Cryptid Mom.
Hey.
Okay. In today's episode, we will be diving into the swamps of Louisiana. And we will be where Cajun people tell stories about a swamp-dwelling beast, mostly described as half man and half wolf, a shape-shifting beast, a human who was once human and is cursed to change at the full moon like your traditional werewolf.
What's he called?
The legendary creature, my dear Cryptid Mom, is called the Rougarou, and it's a terrifying beast. One I do not recommend you all go after. It's a creature who was once human and is cursed. What it is, the Rougarou is a curse. Like someone puts a curse on someone, and that infects them with the curse. It's a terrible creature. And it's described as 7-10 feet tall, with a canine-like head, buckled feet, buckled legs, 5 fingers, 3 toes on its feet, with a wolf-like head, and a terrifying howl. It emits blood-curdling howls, and is cursed, to infect others with the curse of the Rougarou. Now, there are 4 ways to become a Rougarou. And it's an infectious curse that cast onto someone with a demonic spell for 101 days. Now, one way to become a Rougarou is with a bite, a scratch, or, now this is what separates it from your average werewolf. The Rougarou, if you look into the eyes of the Rougarou, then you're infected with the curse for 101 days. And once those 100 days are over and you infected some people, they're going to come after you to end the curse. And there's also, if you have children, they may be infected with the curse. So it's a very nasty thing. It's just something you just don't want to go into the swamp looking for.
How do they know it's in the swamp? Do you have any stories?
Yes. But first off, some people say it lives in the swamp, and the Rougarou wants you to think that it's in the swamp, so you won't look in the most obvious place.
Oh.
The Rougarou lives here, in town, or in your family. It could be anybody. And we'll get to that in some good stories. I picked out several good stories for us today. Our first eyewitness story is told by Jedediah Hambone, who tells of a story. He was rabbit hunting as a kid, and his buddy Joshua were hunting rabbits in the swamp, when all of a sudden they smelled a rotten animal out in the swamp. It was a disgusting smell, like nothing they had smelled before. As they walked towards the odor, they could feel like something was watching them. And they, all of a sudden, out of the blue, they spotted an unidentifiable creature, gigantic, hairy beast, 10 feet tall, glowing eyes, with a deep growl, headed, and all of a sudden, thump, 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 it was gone. Now, Jedediah, ever since, has been wanting to prove the Rougarou exists. He wants to get evidence, try and find it again, which I don't recommend any of you do, because it's dangerous and risky, okay? So don't do what he's doing. But in the winter of 1999, after years of tracking the beast, Jedediah spotted the Rougarou, chased him with his shotgun, only to trip and fall and dropped his gun. He looked up to see the creature well enough to see claws on his human-like furry fingers and 3 toes on each foot. Again, the creature growled, and thump, 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 he was gone in the swamp. And that was the last time he saw the Rougarou. Now let's go on to story 2. Another great story. 2 miles away from Terrebonne, a tribal chief's daughter, Elizabeth, shares his encounters on a stormy night. His parents were off attending a tribal dance. He was left home to watch his brothers and sisters. After the kids were in bed, he sat down to have a cup of coffee. He was 15, so he was old enough to have coffee. All of a sudden, he heard a knock at the door. And he asked, "Who's there?" No answer. The knocking continued, and he said, "I'm not going to let you in unless you answer me." And that's when he heard a voice, a very raspy, hard, growling voice saying, "Let me in." And then he said, "No, I'm not going to let you in." And that's when the creature broke the door and opened it. The creature, the Rougarou, jumped onto the table, and all the kids were terrified, and so was her father was very terrified, but he was more terrified for the children than himself. So he confronted it. And he thought for a moment that the Rougarou was going to kill him, but it wasn't the case. He wanted the boy to cut him, to deliver him from the curse. Because according to legend, if someone encounters the Rougarou and that person cuts the Rougarou, draws blood from the Rougarou, at that moment, the Rougarou will change back into its human form. But there's also a risk that the curse will transfer.
Right.
So you don't want to try that. But anyway, after he cut the creature, the thing roared and thump, 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 it was gone. It ran out the door. The Homa Indians respected the swamp with an understanding that there is evil that lurks. They know there hear animals chirping and so forth. Now, on to our third story. And this one is probably going to blow up because I added these. But anyway, this story takes place years ago. A woman and her husband lived in Louisiana. They were a good, loving couple, but every month the husband would leave. And he always told his wife, never to go outside, especially around a full moon. And, well, one night the husband left, and the wife, well, as you can expect, was very, very worried. But not much as just her husband might be in danger, but she was, distrustful that he was probably going to have an affair.
Oh.
So she went outside, and she had not gone longer than a few steps when she heard a crunch to her right, on side of her. And she looked, and there was the beast, the Rougarou. Now this is where the curse takes effect. She locked eyes with it. She locked eyes with the Rougarou, and then it was gone. Now she knew the legend about the curse of the Rougarou. So for 101 days, she locked herself up every full moon when she changed. After 101 days, the curse was broken, and she went back, and her husband told her what was going on. He told her that he was the Rougarou that infected her.
Oh.
But now the curse was broken, and they both went on to live a happy life. Now, our next story is quite interesting. You think the Rougarou could be anybody, and it can be. This kid, his grandmother lived in the swamps of Louisiana. And, well, he went to visit his grandma, and when he was there at her house, she always told him never to go into the woods. Stay out of the woods. It's dangerous. And, being a kid, well, he just decided one day, oh, there's nothing to fear. I'm going to go into the woods. And he was out there. He went out. And all of a sudden, he saw this thing, this werewolf-like creature. And it chased him back to the house. And it didn't bite him or infect him. But he told his grandmother what had happened. And she broke down crying. Of course, his parents scolded him for disobeying, but the grandmother explains to him what was going on. Apparently, years ago, his grandfather had problems with livestock killing. And so he went into the woods and saw the beast that was doing the killing. A fierce battle took place, and the grandfather prevailed and killed the beast. But when he got home, he started to change. And knowing what was happening to him, that he was infected, he left for the woods. And he turned into a Rougarou. And the mother explains that every night she would leave out food for him and he would lick the plate clean. But she really loved that man and didn't want to kill him. So she said to him, "That was your grandfather." Now, this next story. A boy was given instructions by his parents never to go hunting during All Saints' Day in the swamp. And he did. He went out into the swamp and went hunting, disobeyed his parents. And then everything went quiet, and he heard a crunch to his left, and all of a sudden this creature chased him back home, and from then on he never went hunting again. Our last and final story takes place in 1980. In 1980, a man named Roy, when he was 19 years old, he went and got a job at a store called Chess King in Louisiana. And he had a lot of girls that came in, wink wink, and he was having a good time. One day, a girl came into the store, and as he said, she was looking pretty fine there. I'm going to go up and have a little conversation with her. And so he goes up to her and says, "Hey." And she says, "Hey, back." And he says to her, "You're looking pretty good. I'll take you out on Friday night, right?" And she's like, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah. What's your address?" She didn't reply that. "Okay, what's your number? Where do you live?" And she said, "My mom and dad won't let boys come by." Now, something should have told him that this was just stop, but he went ahead and said, "Well, where can we meet?" And she said there is a place near her house called, I can't remember the name of the park, but it was a good little park. And he said, "What time?" 7:00. "Okay, I'll be there," he says. Then he goes over to the park at 6:50 p.m. and 7:00 pulls over, 8:00 pulls over, nighttime approaches, and there was a man who was playing basketball named Herman that asked him, "Do you want to play?"
Darn Herman.
And he says, "Well, she's not going to show up for whatever." So he decided to play with Herman and his friends. They played basketball for the next 3 hours. And at 12:00, they wanted to get a drink. So they decided to go and get a drink. They got on the train tracks, and that when everything got really dark, you had to be like a few distance away from the next person to see. And all of a sudden, they heard a noise behind them, and something was telling him, "Get the hell out of there." And so what happened was, all of a sudden, this thing comes running out of the forest, and they all take off running. And what happens is the beast runs at them, and Herman hit the ground and fell over. And he says he never heard a man make this noise. He screamed. And so he ran back, got a handful of rocks, and all this, he sees what he describes either as the biggest dog he's ever seen or something else. And it had to be 9 feet tall. And according to him, he described it like this. It had hands and everything a human female would have, except a whole lot bigger. And he said he saw a hand come out where a paw should come out. And what happened is one of the guys came up next to him and pulled out of his fanny pack a 58.
Wow.
And when she saw him do this, Herman was frozen and just looking right at the beast. He was scared, frozen. But when he pulled that gun out, she put her ears back and growled, and that's when he said that's when he could see her teeth. And the guy unloaded his gun on her, shot her, and she ran off. He got home, and for a few days, he was scared to go out. I mean, he loaded his gun. He had nightmares every night. He was having just this hard time. And he didn't go back to work until Tuesday. So he went back to work on Tuesday, and he was still very shook up. And his boss asked him, "What's the matter? Are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I'm not all right." And she asks him, "What's wrong?" And he says to her, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." And she's like, "Something's not right." And he tells her his story, that the other night he was playing ball and so on. And when he got done, she said to him, "Oh, you've seen a Lougarou." And then she explains to him what a Lougarou is, that in Louisiana, the Lougarou is a werewolf. And by the way, did I mention that the origins of the Rougarou was said to have come with the Dutch settlers? That it came from England, where it was known as the Lougarou. But anyway, he says, she started explaining what a Lougarou was, and so on. And the curse and everything. And that until you can locate them and kill them, then you're going to be a Lougarou. But anyway, all he knows is that he saw a Lougarou that was female. And yet he was supposed to go on a date with a female that night. Same time, same place, same area. So that's where his mind starts to go.
Yeah.
That was that girl. And she came into that store looking for her Friday night meal. That's what he was supposed to be.
Wow.
And he says monsters do exist. These are not scary stories that your parents tell you. They actually exist. They walk the earth the same as we do. And he called his brother and told him what happened. And he said, "You're going to have to learn to lock that in a box." And it wasn't an easy problem. It cost him relationships and so on. And he doesn't go into the woods as much anymore. But anyway, that's the end of that story. And we're going to wrap it up here. If you have any other cryptids you want me to talk about, please tell me in the comments. I also accept fan mail, and maybe one of you can help put an intro on my videos. Send me some of that. I'll also be soon active on TikTok and Instagram. So once I get that set up, why don't you join me on there? And remember, if we can hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, this one and me, we're going to Crater Lake looking for a real life Bigfoot.
Expedition.
We're going on an expedition to look for the real thing. And maybe we'll get some evidence.
We're going to find him.
We're going to find him. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Like, favorite, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Comment below what cryptid you want me to do next. And outro, do. And peace out.